Again, it's easier to start with the smaller projects. It's said here the problem-based learning is sort of the first phase when we go towards the phenomenon approach. The ideal is the same. We give more freedom, but also more responsibility for our students. And we are trying to teach them that they are now the ones who own the learning process, as we discussed yesterday. And it's been a sort of a pleasure to see when I've been teaching in different grades how this kind of a phenomenon approach is seen from the students' point of view. They are very eager to learn this way, and they also understand that they are doing the project for themselves. So they are learning reading, writing, listening, so that they would know more, so that they would gain the skills, not just because the teacher is saying that something needs to be done, or the reports need to be written or extra.
So can I ask, how can you reach that state that they are really interested in their own learning? Because of are they treated this way from the kindergarten, or
Yes.
why?
Excellent question. Yes, it is starting already in kindergarten, and I think one of the key elements is this self-reflection. So already at the kindergarten they are taught to have the talk with themselves, like, what have I learned? How have I learned it? What should I learn more? Later on today I will introduce to you this development diary idea that we are using with our students. But already preschool, they are filling the forms, and maybe it's just a like smiley face or crying face, kind of to ask them that, how do you feel about your learning? So of course they are not able to answer in a very complex way, but they are able to say it was nice, it was easy, it was hard, I didn't understand. So they kind of learn how to reflect. So when they go to school in the early grades, the teachers are having this continuous discussion with the pupils that how do you feel about learning? Have you learned? What is the way for you to learn? So usually till 5th grade, the pupils can even say that this is the way I learn best. Some of you who were in online, I probably told you about, because I had 2 sons, the one of them said like, Mom, I realized I learn the best when I'm reading out loud. And he was then in 5th grade, and I was amazed that he kind of had this conversation in his head, and then he came up with the conclusion that, yeah, this is the way I learn. It's of course, it's not like every pupils would realize it in a 5th grade, but at least they have this kind of an understanding that what kind of ways can I use. Well, for example, doing the homework. Do I need the help of the parents? Do I read out loud? Do I use writing techniques, or how should I learn? So then they kind of also understand the fact that the more they work at school and the more they kind of realize the bigger picture, again talking about the deeper learning, they are doing that to help themselves for the future, to gain those skills and competencies they need for the future. And then those discussions like, why do I need this subject, are coming less and less. Because they kind of realize that, okay, maybe the subject as such is not that interesting, but when we are looking at the phenomenon, and this is what I really keen on talking with my children, because I like history, I like religion, I like geography. So when we're talking about the European history, and then like, can you see that when there are people coming and traveling and going around, and then this time of the 20th century, another time, like what have happened from the history point of view, from the religion point of view, from the climates, and all these things, and they realize, yeah, actually that's the why we have the subjects. It's not subject as such, but it's the overall understanding. And that is now when we are looking at the phenomenon-based learning, we have had that in schools even before we had the change of curriculum, but it was just not with this name. Because I have many of my colleagues been teaching a long time, and they said like, yeah, well, we had the task for the students, for example, that let's look at the lakes in the Europe, and while they're looking how the lakes are and the rivers are going around the Europe, then they were searching the countries, and then by the countries they were searching the languages, and then they were kind of diving deeper to the history and geography of Europe. And now we kind of became, or we created a name for it, and we put it inside the curriculum, which makes sure, again, the fact that it doesn't matter where in Finland you live, you can be sure as a parent that the school next to your house is the perfect school for your kids. So that they will have the same methodology and they will have the same mindset for teaching the skills and competencies, not just the subjects. And this also mentioned by David earlier that that it doesn't have to be a huge project. Many of schools do have a huge project, like once in a year there could be this bigger thing that almost all the grades are taking part of. And I think when we first launched the curriculum, and when we were kind of launching the idea that the Finnish schools, we would have the phenomenon-based approach, schools were taking it as a huge and big responsibility, and they need to do something very showy and wonderful. And it kind of turned against each other in a way inside the school, because it needed too much resources and it was too big task. And actually the outcome for the children, for the students, for the pupils would have been the same with the smaller projects. And nowadays more and more phenomenon-based happens inside the classroom. And of course it's easier with the first till 6th graders, because they have the classroom teacher who is mainly responsible for almost all the subjects. So it's easier for him or her to do the thing inside the classroom and combine the subjects. And then with the upper grades, 7, 8, 9, it's about the collaboration between the teachers. Like for example, that they are discussing about teaching the same phenomenon during the same period. Let's say talking about the weather or water, and we are looking at that phenomenon in the language lessons, in biology, in math, and different kinds of subjects. Very much related to the teachers again. Who are the ones who decide together, okay, let's take this phenomenon and use it for the following week or 3 weeks.
Is it in mind of education developers that everything could be taught via phenomenon-based learning? All the subjects, like all day long. They've just discovered the word this way.
Yes, there are some schools in Finland who are even more to this kind of approach, the Steiner style schools.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, but if we go to like very normal Finnish schools, I think the main thing is what is happening every day are the lower grades, and then it's very up to the teacher how she or he is doing it. And then when we go to the upper grades, it really depends on the teachers. Because as we know, we are, sometimes the chemistry is like click, and we are easy to communicate, and it's easy to kind of do the planning, and sometimes it doesn't matter even though you teach the same subject, or you are in the same school, you just feel like this is not the person you even want to have a collaboration. So it is not forced. But for example, now the school which have the greenhouse, which I was explaining yesterday, they have, probably I mentioned that they have the 5th grade, which is like 50 students, and they have 2 teachers in there. So that was a choice they made, that they want to try out this one huge class, and then they was asking who would be the teachers who want to run it. Because there were teachers who said, definitely no, I want my own classroom myself, I cannot handle it. And then there are teachers who are willing to try this kind of a phenomenon time periods, that they just choose the phenomenon and then they look it inside the time period from the different.
And how long does it last? How long is a project like this?
It can be a week to 3 weeks. I think it mainly, of course, there are certain elements that you need to go through inside the each subject. So it has to be seen that how it's fitting to the curriculum and then the schedules. Mm-hmm. So of course it needs time for planning. And again, it comes to the fact that if you are eager to work and try something new with your colleagues, you might even do the planning in your own time. Because sometimes it's challenging, as discussed yesterday, to find the time inside the school week, school days, do the planning. And that's usually the thing that, okay, it's too complicated, let's just leave it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a course book as well? So you have a course book and you have these projects as well, or what can you imagine let's say a term?
Sorry.
So do you have a term? So what is a term like? So how many projects or cooperation tasks they have? And what about course book? Do you have course books?
Yes, again, during those academic year, there are 5 periods. And now again, it's very much up to the teachers that they are not forced to do any of this, and they are not forced to sort of run the projects. But mainly, most of the teachers want to give something extra for the students, so they are wishing to create even a smaller project inside the school. But it's not said like, okay, this year you have to have 2 different kind of phenomenon projects. But can be, for example, now the school where my children are, they usually have before the Christmas holiday when all the exams have already been and it's more relaxed, they have this kind of a team days that they have different kind of a collaboration between different grades, like grades 1 and 3 are going to play basketball, or sort of they're mixing the grades to do something easy and fun together. And it's not really a project, it's not really phenomenon based, but it's more or less like a different way of collaborating inside the school. So we don't stick to the phenomenon as such that it must be this, but it's actually happening there in the schools. When we will have the week in Finland and you are observing the schools, you notice that it's in there, sort of in a system, and it's not even, we don't need to highlight it, but it's kind of there. And now from the vocational point of view, if I'm thinking me as a teacher, it was very important for me to always bring the stakeholders inside whatever we did. So my approach was that the subject I was teaching, the visual marketing, customer service, project management, service design, that each of the course we have some sort of a collaboration with the working life. Either it was a case from them which I gave to my student that we need to solve this problem or we need to solve this challenge, or it was something I created that could have been in one of the company surroundings, and then we probably just had a visit in there. So that was kind of how we are trying to connect the stakeholders into the school life.
Yes, okay, I wanted to ask that there is a school curriculum, and it's up to the teacher what project to include or integrate. So the teachers are planning before the beginning of the school term what projects to do to integrate into the curriculum, and it's up to them. So they need to figure out the topic. Is that so?
Yes, they are the ones who can decide the topic, and usually before, because the school starts in mid of August, so 3 days before the school starts, the teachers are going to school later on, then they start to have a discussion if they are willing to do something. Or of course during the school year, because some of the schools have like outside funding, like this Erasmus project. So maybe inside the Erasmus project there's something extra that they do. So then they just start talking in a teacher's lounge or in their meetings. Okay, we have this extra funding. Is there something that you are interested in? And that's how it kind of get started. Yeah, but of course this varies from the schools. If we go to school in the cities that are probably more active in this kind of Erasmus projects, when we go outside the cities, and they might be that they have other type of projects and they might work together more with the local companies, or for example kindergartens or elderly care homes. Like that's very common that we take the 2nd, 3rd, 4th graders before the Christmas, and we go to the elderly care homes and we sing Christmas songs. It's kind of a easy way, but you know, seeing different ages of people and collaborating. That's how. Yes.
Yeah, maybe probably if I can just give a hypothetical scenario. Let's say a teacher decides or chooses to use games like Meet the Sims, and at the end of the lesson requests the kids or the learners to do a project maybe on town planning. Will that fall under the category of project-based learning? Because now it's just the teacher and the kids. It does not involve the whole school. There is no collaboration with other teachers. of course, it's pre-selected material, but the other 2 points are not included.
Yeah, it can be, yes, yes. They are like different options, but definitely the most common is that you create some sort of a challenge with your students. Either you or together with the students, or students have a challenge, and then you start sort of solving it. And that's the most easiest to handle, and that is the ones that are most common, that you yourself, you don't even take any of your colleagues, but you will run the project. So the problem solving, project learning, phenomenon-based learning, it's kind of different to see, and we don't need to kind of separate them because they are same elements in all of them. But that's sort of definitely the first and easiest step.
Okay.
But then what is the difference between the project-based, the problem-based and the phenomenon-based? Because we call them 3 different terms.
Yes, yes.
But you say they are sort of the same, but still.
Yeah, the project-based and the problem-based are more sort of like each other. But with the problem-based, it's more like you have a challenge, you have a problem, and you start solving it. And then with the project-based, there is because the problem-based can be same as a project-based, but the project-based could be also that I'm creating this task and we are running it as a project, but learning while we are doing the project, not just doing the project because of the end goal, but kind of learning on the way doing the project. And then the phenomenon, it can be run as a project, but that's like an overall bigger phenomenon, like for example here, as this was that Dave was mentioned. Actually, this is Dave's slide that he created this one, like a lightning flash dash. So when we have the phenomenon and we are now putting the subject under it, and we are in all of these lessons we talk about lightning, then we are dealing with the phenomenon-based approach. But as you can imagine, it's not always easy, because then you really need to have the collaboration with the teachers, even though that is easy, but also finding the time for that planning and then implementing. The watch are probably the most common one when we're talking about especially with the smaller kids, and it doesn't even have to have all those subjects that are mentioned in there. But as you can see, there is an English in quite many of these. Well, this not, oh yeah, it is. So again, from the Finnish point of view, we are eager to add the language inside of the phenomenon-based approach, because as they would say, that the language studies are easier to put into here, and they are like more flexible in a way, even though of course there are elements that you need to teach, but each phenomenon can be looked from that point of view. Now, here is one example of, again, one school in Jyväskylä who did this kind of cross-cultural learning project. So this was not yet the phenomenon-based project, but this is like 2 words to the phenomenon. Can be said as a project-based learning in a way, but anyhow, the idea that they just had the one project where they combined for core subjects. They were having this 1 week, and it said around 15 hours, plus the presentations that the kids made. And this was made for 6th graders. So they were divided for the groups of 3. And now this again, groups of 3, because why? What would you say? It's group of 3, is it?
Everyone participates.
Yes, yes. Even though we are teaching our pupils to own their learning process, to reflect themselves, we still know that if it's a group of 4, it might be not yet that challenging, but a group of 5, definitely 2 are sleeping and 3 are doing the work, or even the 4 are sleeping and 1 is doing the work. But with the group of 3, and in this case, the assessment was done with the peer review. So we are also the same when we are teaching the pupils to reflect themselves. We are teaching them to give the feedback, and in many of cases when we are doing the projects, the teacher is not the one to of course give some sort of feedback, but not the one to do the assessment. It's more or less like discussions with the pupils inside the team, the group, and then like this kind of a group to group. And why? Well, of course we think it's important to learn, to give the feedback and receive the feedback, but also sort of for the future point of view. Of course you need that skills when you go to the later studies, but latest you need the skills of giving the feedback and receiving the feedback when you go to the work. And sometimes it's the most challenging to give the feedback to your colleagues and the students that you study together with. So when you learn it, when you're younger, it's easier than later on. So yeah, each group choose one country, and now this is a very like common things that we are looking from the history point of view or the geography point of view, usually the Europe, and we kind of look it more deeper. In this case, they were able to choose any country they wished. And who would not like to travel? So they were kind of planning the thing that the students choose the country, and then they really needed to start doing the calculations, booking the tickets, planning the timetables, doing the budgeting. So it's easy now because you are combining the different subjects that you are able to go more deeper than just saying like, okay, the train ticket costs 15 euros. But what if you take train to there and another train, then you fly? Do you take a ferry? What is the overall cost? Where do you stay overnight? How many times you're going to plan eat out? Do you have your own lunch? And this kind of again overall understanding about how you're spending the money, how you spend the time, what are the limitations, and how we took or how they took the English language in. They were writing the reports, this kind of travel blog, and this is when they were using English. Again, this was done with the 5th and 6th graders, so not all of them English were fluent that they could actually write long stories, but it was mainly like English and Finnish both. And here is listed now again the subjects. If we are in a 5th and 6th graders, actually the class teacher can handle all the others except the English. So in this case, there could be one teacher, because again the English teacher could be the same than the classroom teacher. Usually not, but as I said yesterday, this is a new thing that we are now teaching in our university, that we are combining the classroom teachers qualification and English teacher qualification. Soon we have these people. And it was interesting that David mentioned this morning that who is like more afraid on the other? Is it the classroom teacher afraid that the English teachers are coming to teach the lower grades, or is it the English teacher afraid now the classroom teacher have ability? But I think it's more about how do we collaborate, because this would really help. We have classroom teacher available there to help with all the projects that's happening in the school, especially with the European funding, Erasmus, all that, because we have more sort of English skilled teachers. So let's say at least 2, probably this could be 3 teachers, because sometimes also the math is something that some of the smaller schools, usually the math is taught by the classroom teacher, but in the smaller schools when there are not so many upper grades, we might have like 2 maths teachers who also take the lower grades. So it could be that 3 teachers are like running through the project, which would also be nice for them because they can collaborate and deal with the students. But this is very kind of an easy way to approach towards the phenomenon-based learning, even though there are no phenomena as such, but there is a challenge of how to travel, where to travel, what to see. And then from this type of projects afterwards, it's easy to look from the different angles of these subjects. Yes?
May I have just one? In Hungary, in the Waldorf, you call them Steiner school, they have this, the class teacher is teaching all the subjects until 8. And then if the teacher has the university degree, he or she might teach even in the high school as well. And there are no special subject teachers.
Yeah.
It's the way that they show that like getting out of the school by the age of 16, you should have only the average knowledge, and being specialized, what is needed for the university is only above that age. And all, I would say, like normal or average people possess those knowledges that are needed for a child. So there is no special, for example, chemistry teacher or physics or whatever to get those knowledges that the subjects have.
Yeah.
And it's very nice because I have plenty of Waldorf teachers, Steiner's teachers in France and in my relations and networks, and what they say that the child does see an adult that we don't know everything, but I can also learn anything that is around me, and it's just a process of how to learn.
Yeah, definitely, and I can see lots of common things now when we are looking about the phenomenon-based approach that we have in our school from the Steiner type of approach. But still, we have the subjects, and I think there's a myth of when we're talking about the Finnish education that there are no subjects, because of course when you think that, okay, there's just the phenomena, okay, no subject teachers needed. No, that's totally wrong. We are highly respecting the subject teachers, because we definitely need them. From the 7th, 8th and 9th graders, from the comprehensive school, we have the subjects. So from the grade 1 to 6, we have the classroom teacher, who is the adult in a classroom, and it's very important that there is one person that the pupils can count on. But even though, so that usually from the grades 1 to 3, it's the same teacher, or 1 to 2. Then 3 to 4, 1, and if it probably changed third time to 5 to 6. And this is because the grades 1, 2, 3, of course, the pupils are smaller, they need kind of a father-mother character, but when they are getting a bit older, you kind of need to be more characteristic in a teacher point of view. So it's very good that they are at least one time there's a change of teacher, because when they go into the 7th grade, then there's just like a tutor teacher who might have one subject for the group, but otherwise the teachers are changing. And again, it brings the challenge that it is not that easy, even though it's in a curriculum, to actually implement it in a school when we talk about the grades 7, 8 and 9, the phenomenon-based approach. And this was actually already what David was mentioned in the morning when talking about the deep learning and understanding. So the kids also understand that we do not learn these things because there will be an exam coming and we will just memorize the stuff and then we will be good at the exam. But actually, we are active learners and we now understand what does it mean, this phenomenon, and then later on they can use it in their own life. There is a researcher called Pasi Nurminen who has written quite a lot about phenomenon-based approach. I can share you with some articles about that through his research. So, and he's also been quite often talking in these kind of educational events. Of course, there has been lots of research before changing the curriculum in Finland, and I think the main elements why do we take why we took the phenomenon-based approach is really about the understanding the bigger picture, and also to showcase that the school, even though it's important, how the school is preparing the students for the life. So that students and pupils are not studying for the school, but they're studying for the life and for themselves.
I like it.
Yeah, I think that's often said when we talk about the Finnish education, that if you want to say it short, that's how we feel, that the school is the first steps towards something bigger, greater, but we need to prepare those pupils the time that we are there with them, whatever is happening afterwards.
And this is my morning, every morning I keep telling it to my son who hates school.
Yeah.
And so I try to compensate, and but actually it's deeply true.
Yeah, yeah.
Some of it is already true.
Yes.
And I think that's also kind of one way to put it, that it doesn't really matter what are the numbers, even though of course for the latest study it's important that you don't get the lowest grades from your courses, but it's meant that you have the understanding and you have a capability use the knowledge that you have gained or use the knowledge that you will gain later to do something that you like. And so it's not necessary that you have the best numbers in a subject if you are just not able to use the language or use the skills. So this is something that, of course, it's very concrete in vocational sector, because either you know how to use the scissors if you try to be a hairdresser, or you don't. So it's same kind of a mentality that you need to practice, but not so because the teacher is saying, but because you will see that you will need it later on. And even though, who knows in a ninth grader that what they become in adult, because even though we don't know what's the future brings and what do we want to do. And then I think that's great, as talked yesterday, that there's a chance of adult education, changing careers. So we cannot expect the ones who are in 7th, 8th and 9th graders to yes, try now to focus on this because you're going to need these skills, because they're like, oh, who cares? I mean, whatever tomorrow brings, let's see. But somehow, at least a little bit, try to get them the idea that I'm owning the process of learning, and maybe that will give them the inner motivation.
Can I have one question? How general is it to use this phenomenon-based learning method in high school? Because we've been talking about primary school, lower grades most of the time. So what is it about high schools?
Yes, high school, again, there's this period system. It is more challenging because it could be like the English language is in the first period and the second, and then the third, fourth, not at all. So then it's even more about the teachers, that how do they see that, do they have time to have the phenomenon that they would use together or not. But what is helping in a high school, that they have, for example, the entrepreneurship studies. So inside that course, they are doing the project work and they're doing the phenomenon-based type of things with the students.
So what about language classes in high school? So do they use this project-based or phenomenon-based learning in language, in English classes, for example?
Yes, again, that is very much depending on the teacher. Now, if I'm looking at my daughter is in the first year of high school now, and it's a sort of the very big high school. They have lots of different teachers. I must say that I think it's very, there hasn't been any project in languages, but it's very innovative. They are using different kind of digital devices and lots of talking inside the classroom, and of course homework and all these normal things. But it's like the teaching and learning is very active, but there has not been a project as such yet. Could be also that it's a first grade in a high school. Maybe the language, the teachers think in the language is not in a level that they are not yet using it that much. But again, I think we come to the fact of the autonomy of the teachers. So we have a trust for the teachers, and we have a trust that, okay, if they're not doing the project-based learning, it's fine. Maybe it's not time yet. Maybe it's not a good time of the year, or the content at that period is not suitable for the project-based or phenomenon-based. But then again, if they do, I would think as a parent, okay, I trust the teacher, this is a good time, these are now the right age of pupils to try it on. So we do not question what is happening in the school, but of course, as a parent and as being involved in education, I'm more than happy to hear the comments when my kids are saying that now they did something extra, that really like, wow, wonderful, yeah, tell me more. And now the high school part is kind of a new, also from the parent point of view, that I have not yet went deep into it, but I think it's very much related to the teachers. And from the vocational point of view, I can say, which if I look back with my colleagues, it was more or less that we sit down and said like, okay, now we just need to create a project. Let's do something together, because we had the willingness of bringing something extra. Again, some of our students were not that motivated to study, so we really needed to get something else than just the subject as such.
When we were in Dublin, we worked together with a lot of other teachers. Especially the secondary school teacher has this problem that this project-based learning is not suitable for them. because the curriculum is so high, they have to train the students for the final exam. And this academically is so high that they just can't find a way to integrate this kind of method. Because, and if they do, the parents will definitely say, not do it.
Yeah.
Because our interest is that our children to get into the uni. So it's not just because they don't want to try it, but because the expectation of the parents are so high that you can be successful if you go to uni. And don't waste time for practical things. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, yeah.
So when they are so young, they are not able to do it because they are not so skillful. But when they are in secondary school, they cannot do it because they have got timetable, they have got curriculum, they have to do as many academically as they can.
Yes. Yes, I think that is something definitely the high schools are facing in Finland, because the only sort of test that we have in our whole system is the matricular examination in the end of the high school, so the year 3. So of course everything that happens year 1, 2 and 3 before the test is very critical, and they need to study a certain amount of courses, the subject that they have chosen. So I understand even they are struggling with the same thing, that is there enough space inside of those schedules to do something extra, and if there is, how can we combine the thing that I need to teach and put it in a way of projects?
Well, actually I do not agree with Bell, because I teach in a high school and teach English, and I'm trying to integrate this project-based learning somehow at my level. I'm not sure I'm doing it well, but I try to do my best, and I think teaching English, in teaching English, it can help a lot. For example, to acquire vocabulary of different topics. So it is a more efficient way than just, I think, learning, making students learn some words and then writing essays or whatever, or learn topics.
Sorry, I was speaking about mathematics and real subjects.
Sorry.
Mathematics, that was a mathematics teacher that he cannot do it because
There's no time.
no time.
No time, no friend.
Well, I think
So in real subject, you cannot do this because
Or you can squeeze it somehow once a year. We try. My students, no, that's fine. So last time I did, my colleagues hated me, but they did it for me, and then they loved it. The next time they hated me again. But we are talking about very limited time, one lesson. I asked for one lesson. Do this, use their lesson time.
The whole week is just impossible.
No, absolutely. Kind of
about
impossible.
the thing is that in secondary school, spending a week for a project is just not possible.
There's a structural difference.
But you can make your students, but I'm talking about teaching English. So
Yeah, in an English lesson you do whatever you want.
Yes.
So that's easy.
Yeah, so you can, it's
No,
easier and
but
more efficient way of learning the vocabulary of the topic. It's a lot more interesting.
Yes.
It's a lot better way than just going on with
Yes, but the other subjects.
yeah.
I don't know.
So then you want to cooperate with other subject teacher. That's the problem because they don't let.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I think we are in a time of a paradigm shift, because when the journalist was here and he was asking you what are the main differences between the structure in Finland and Hungary, then there were so many basic points which are completely different in Finland than what we have here. Like, what is success? And then Sanna, you said, in Finland, success is not money, like how much you earn. It's much more about, are you happy in your life? Do you do what you want to do? Are you satisfied with the choices you have taken? Or, I don't know, but that was really for me, like, and if we want to do changes, I think it's from my point of view, how we make changes in our surroundings, that I don't try to fit into the existing structure, whatever, because it doesn't fit, otherwise it could be already there. So it's like we try to do it, we see how it works, and soon after, either this one you take it in, or it will be so impactful that it will, like are you the shark or are you the small fish? It doesn't matter. Somehow you will end up together, and then we will have impact on each other.
Yeah,
but it's hard to.
I agree with you, Judith. In the morning, Oshi, we had this discussion about transformation, change. That change is not an easy thing. I mean, when you try to change, of course, you'll find some kind of stumbling block or some kind of resistance, either from yourself, from your colleagues, from the principal, or from the parents. So it's important that, I mean, change begins with us. We try, we move a step further, try and see if it works, and if it doesn't work, try again. Because a school is an institution, and we were socialized as teachers, we are socialized differently. So if we come together and we try to do things, we have different perceptions about what education is. What education means for me might be different from what it means to you. So, I mean, as a teacher, it's a platform. Teaching is it's my personal opinion that teaching is a platform to implement change. And also to try as much as you can to collaborate with people, because collaboration is key. So, I mean, I know it's not easy, but we need to try and convince them, convince other colleagues that it's doable, we can do it. I mean, we can only try.
There are some interesting things going on anyway in Europe, because in my daughter, one of my daughters, wants to be a doctor, okay? And if she goes in Hungary to the uni, she needs to know academically chemistry and biology. That's it. Okay, you don't need to do anything else. But if you want to go to uni in Austria or in Germany, as she would like to, the 50% of the academic knowledge that you need, and another 50, you need very good in other skills like psychology, memory, what else? So this kind of skills is 50%, and only 50% your academic knowledge. So they are trying to do something, but not in Hungary. So some cybernetic idiots can go and be a doctor just because they know the chemistry and biology very well. So,
yeah, this is a bit saying that in the morning David was mentioning about these soft skills. I totally agree. The word soft doesn't describe, because those are the skills that you need to have a conversation, meeting people, socialize, but also, especially thinking about being a doctor, you definitely need more than just those chemistry, physics, or mathematics, because you're the one, you're serving your clients. And
there was an attitude I heard from a doctor's school, because I told that I had a teacher's practice at the Semmelweis University in Budapest. And the teachers who sent us there at university said that in the 80s, the attitude to doctors was, to the patients, was like this, that you only shake your patient's hands to check the pulse and the temperature of the other person, and that's the reason you shake their hand. And yeah, this is shifting, but it's, okay, 80s is like 40 years ago. But there are still doctors who graduated that year and are still in practice. So it's
and they are like that when you go to them, like.
Yeah. So it's this is like I heard while I was at university in the early 2010s that that's when they started implementing psychology as a subject where the doctors actually learn about feelings and emotions, and that patients are not just biological bodies that they have to cure, but actual people with feelings. So it's
yes, it's interesting, and we still do the same.
And one for me, I'm just in contact with the university from here, from the area, and the person who let me in is the head of the Healthcare and Social Science Institute. And she was, we were thinking the same, that now the teachers need not only academic skills, but skills of a psychologist or a mental trainer as well, because there is no time to have an extra, how do we call it in the school, mental hygienic trainer to go there and solve the problems 1 week later after the problem has occurred. So it's like there is a need, and they are actually open for doing sort of changes already at the base of teaching teachers or educate teachers.
Yeah, I think we also had this discussion because I said that in JYU, in our university, and all over the teacher training program in Finland, they are taking the curriculum starting on 2024. So they will start the process now, probably as we speak, next week, starting it. To change the teacher training program to be more, to give more tools for the new teachers to face all the challenges that are same than in here. So it's not just about teaching, it's about facing the parents, other stakeholders, all the paperwork, which is really less than here, but anyhow there is some in Finland, and all of these kind of pupils from different backgrounds. It's not just like the same kind of families that the pupils are coming from. The people are from outside of Finland, so there are language issues and different kind of things are great mix in a classroom, but again it needs more tools for the teachers so that they are able to use the different methods to help all the children.
One more thing. Last summer when I was discussing with my friend Greta, who is working at the university and making these researchers on education, she was telling me that, for example, when there is a math teacher, she is not taught to know maths at the highest level, but to be able to solve problems when she is facing in the class, like how should I teach it to the child? Like she is not taking it this way, then other different options, and that's what they do a lot.
And this reminds me of my friend from Tikku who said to me, a Finnish teacher or teacher from Finland, she said that like she disagrees with the fact that adults cannot learn because there's this sort of stereotype that kids can learn so much better and all that, and she says that it's not true because the adults have already learned how to learn, and that's why we have that kind of addition to us. So in a sense that really explains to me how they think about teaching, that they focus on the learning to learn and the responsibility that you want to learn or you can learn, and this is really connected to phenomenon-based learning because, as Sanna said, the aim is to show the big picture, why you need to know math, why you need to know this, and you connect it, that everything is connected. That's a statement I think also in the education and social sciences, that really everything is connected, and phenomenon-based learning is really for that. So, and I really appreciate all your comments because it's very inspiring to hear that you also feel that you have the power to change. And of course we are looking at the big picture now, but this simple tool is very much hot topic, a discussion in Finland, and it's not happening every day there either. I think Sanna, you mentioned this, that this is not like like it's not like every day, every class, but it happens at least once or twice a year, so that they have the opportunity to step back and look at the big picture and sort of get their motivation for learning the different subjects. But Emily, you had a question?
Yes, I just wanted to confirm what you said about universities, that I remember while I was studying to become a teacher of English, we had many pedagogical subjects which looked basically like this, like a workshop. We sit in a circle, get questions, try to answer them, get projects or phenomena, and try to play out the situations. And we had many of these, and then at the end we all got a 5 because how should that be marked or evaluated? And that's when friends or peers from other universities said that you just sit around and talk and that's it, while they're listening to a scientific lecture, and they have to know facts and calculations and problem solvings, which could be solved with equations. And compared to that, the teacher education is I don't know, they felt that it was not like at a university level, it was not as demanding and it was an easy university, but then again it's necessary to become a good teacher, to have these meetings, because this is what real life will look like, and as we see it here too, that we're also doing the same thing that I used to do at universities and in the international projects as well. We sat down, we talked, we played out a lot of scenarios, and we tried to come to a solution. And that's why, because many people ask about what the education of teachers looks like nowadays. I don't know, because it was 8 years ago when I graduated, so it's
The young one.
it's now long ago when I graduated, so I have no idea, and I haven't gone back to visit my university what they are doing. But yes, and these are very enjoyable, and you get a lot of useful knowledge to become a teacher in these workshop-like lessons. But there still are the usual lectures which are which are about like 9 books that are discussed, compared, and then you have to write a big test about how much you remember from the methodology of this and that person, and that's the basic academics of what they are, but so they still do exist.
Yeah. Just the last one, sorry. Yeah. So can you imagine this? Imagine this, the result of this our education system. That our maths teacher, okay, she teaches maths at a very, very high level. She can teach integration, okay. Mm-hmm. And
that's high level.
Yes, because this is a high level.
Yeah.
And when I asked her, because I'm responsible for this Erasmus project, can you just change this euro to forint, and can you just tell me, so how much euro do you need? And she asked, can I count in buy or selling, or how can I? So she didn't know the differentiate what is buying euro and what is selling euro, and she didn't know what rate should she use. And she's a maths teacher.
But like good example for that, you really know the subject like so deep that actually you are not able to even use it in a daily basis, and that is a very good sort of angle to the fact that why are we using the Feynman based, because not the math as to know exactly how to calculate, but the math so that you are able to do your daily shopping and going abroad and do the calculations. One thing what also mentioned about the adult, I think it's so true that with the adult education, the main thing we face the challenge when we have adults, especially in a vocational, when they come to sort of changing careers or anyhow having a new energy for their life, is the thing that they feel that they are lacking the skills to learn. And that's why, because when they were at school, they were thought in a way that it's teacher here, I'm the one who speaks, you listen, and then if you have something to say, you might raise your hand, maybe not even, because the question may be not important at all. So that's the way they have learned how to learn. And when they come to my class and I'm saying like, let's talk, and they're like, oh my God, but I don't know, what should I say? Please you tell. So it's like talking head here, like now it has been over an hour, which is not good. So I think that's the challenge that we are facing now with the adults, but if we go for 20 years, and then we will have those adults who have learned how to learn, so they can reflect and they are more than active, like you guys are here. And now I stop my monologue and I will give you a task. So let's continue with the same groups, and now you have a chance to start creating your Feynman-based project. Now this is, you don't need to be think about resources, but if we would do this like in a real case, like when we are training the schools that they can actually run the project-based learning or Feynman-based learning, we are also calculating the resources. But first of all, start planning that who would be the group that the project is for. So No, this is another way around. Yeah. So, okay, we can start from here. So, what kind of project-based learning, phenomenon-based learning project? So, what is the phenomenon? Is there a certain phenomenon you wish to look more closely? And then, of course, to whom? Is it the kindergarten, first grades, upper grades, high school, university students, or adult learners? So, of course, that would affect also the phenomenon. But then, which are the subjects to combine? Well, English for sure, but what could be those subjects that you wish in your ideal project that you would like to combine? And then how, meaning that would it be a normal kind of classroom thing, or would you add some visits? Is there a laboratory needed? Is it a group work all the way? Is it the individual studies? Again, if we are taking the shorter, like let's say that it's 2 to 5 hours, like one day thing, probably it's between the groups. If it's a longer, like 1 week, are they parts of their pupils or students are doing as a group work, maybe some individual parts. And then, what is the outcome? What do you wish to achieve? What would you think that your pupils would then sort of gauge you, report it back? Is it the PowerPoint presentations that you expect? Is it the videos? Or do you leave it open that they can decide how they present whatever they have come up with? And then, of course, how can you assess it? Do you have an idea how to assess? Is it the outcome? Is it more about the activity in the groups? So these are here just to help you to have a discussion, but let's start being creative.